You're listening to It Came from the Radio. You know this is Jennifer Elise Feldman, aka Dr. Feldy, aka Elman, aka Svetlana, aka Susie Lucy. Who cares about me? We're with a really special guy, really knowledgeable guy. I love to talk with people and hear from people, really, who know a lot of things that I don't know. And this man knows a ton of things that are really just not in my jurisdiction. So, very excited to have John Maly. He's the author of Juris Ex Machina. And he also has worked in patents and he's done a lot of things. So here you are. Hello, welcome to the show. It came from the radio.
Thank you. Mom always said I was special. It's good to hear that she was right.
Well, you know what? Now you got someone other than your mother that thinks you're special, but I
I now
listened to
have two
some of
data
your interviews.
points.
There's a bunch of people that think you're special. I listened to some of your interviews. So, all right. So let's get it right into it. Now, this book, Juris Ex Machina, it's a sci-fi book. Full disclosure, I didn't read it. I'm sorry. I haven't even watched five movies that I'm in, but I'd love to read it. And depending on how this interview goes, maybe I will. So let's see. Here's your interview. I'm just kidding. Now, one of the reviews said that the book is sci-fi, but it should really be called science probability. So I'm curious what you think. Let's say this year, 2025, let's just stick with this year. What types of things do you think us humans are going to see with our own eyes in real life, not on the internet necessarily, but everywhere, that are very popular in your books and sci-fi books? Where's sci-fi going to hit reality in 2025?
So I think that AI is a really interesting case as far as human history and human evolution, because
Mhm.
you can go back to times when we had like really drastic evolutionary kind of societal evolutionary, and like the Industrial Revolution. You have a situation where people died with just a vastly different world than they were born into. And the interesting thing about AI that's different from, those of us who are like super old and grew up like before there was the internet and then suddenly there was the
Mhm.
internet. And that was
Mhm.
kind of like a watermark of like how different life was before and after. Um, the difference with that is that with the internet, you had to be interested in that and you had to go out and find it and like buy a modem or like pay an ISP for like,
Yeah.
subscription. And that kind of slowed the rate of adoption. And so it would have been a really radical change even faster, except that it was sort of at the rate of which like the average person in society was like interested in this technology. And AI is different because it's sort of being like thrust upon us. It's like all these
Hmm.
companies are putting it into every aspect of everything from like your clothes dryer to your dishwasher to like your anti-lock brake system. Like they all are using AI to some extent. And, in some cases, like, with social media, we can kind of opt in or out of that. And then in other cases, we kind of can't. So it's interesting because it's going to be this really sort of a technological singularity that changes life and changes every industry it touches, which is going to be most industries. But
Hmm.
it's not going to be something we can kind of put the brakes on. So it's one of those things where it's like incumbent upon us to really learn more about it and kind of stay educated the same way that like when computer viruses became a thing, we had to suddenly like learn enough about that to kind of protect ourselves.
Correct. And side note on computer viruses, you know the McAfee program, you know about McAfee and his persona. I will tell you just a little side note, just a little fun thing. Sometimes I work in this real estate, I manage this real estate office, okay? Uh, the day after he died, very weird. I opened my computer, this computer, I think it was this computer, and I have all these McAfee pop-ups like all over my computer. And
Wow.
never again, just that day, just the day I believe after he died, and he was like all over the news and all these, I don't know, very weird. So that's just a little fun, little strange. What the hell is going on here? And maybe it's just
I always
coincidence.
appreciated that when Epstein killed himself, that there were no
Sure, sure.
pop-ups on my computer, but when McAfee killed himself, like there was all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Okay, so very interesting to me. Now you work in another field. You currently work in patents, or you did work in patents.
I still do, yep.
Um, you still do. Okay. So, patents are highly involved in the evolution or degradation of health, human health, the FDA, pharmaceuticals. What's one way, in your perspective, that you think patents have helped pharmaceutical companies to make millions or billions of dollars in your own words.
Right. So, I mean, the concept of a patent is that you go through all this trouble to invent something, and you get this limited license from the government to exclusively manufacture that thing or license it to be manufactured. So
Hmm.
the idea is that if you come up with some novel invention, like you invent the better mousetrap, that this is going to be something where you're going to be rewarded for, a certain number of years where no one else can kind of make that thing. And so
Hmm.
this is, versus like the opposite of that would be like if you invented something and instantly like someone in China could copy it, and then you would kind of make however many dollars that you could make between when you finished inventing it and when someone managed to copy it. So
Hmm.
the idea here is like, and this is like if you invent a cure for cancer, this is what's going to make you really rich, is that, for 10 or 15 or 20 years, you're going to be getting like you're going to be the sole provider of this technology. So that's kind of how it's supposed to work in principle.
Hmm.
And without that, it kind of like is, it's like how much would these various companies actually be investing in drug research, and would they spend billions of dollars investing in this if it could become generic like a year later? So that's in principle how it's supposed to work, and I think in a lot of cases it does work that way, but there's certainly cases where it doesn't.
I like the way you express that. That's all I gotta say about that.
Okay.
And here's another weird sci-fi thing. I won't get into myself and Hedy Lamarr and stories on that,
Eddie
but
Lamar is amazing.
right. So, well, I never met her, but I saw a documentary and I've heard things, and she does sound like she was amazing. But if I haven't seen anyone and met you with my own eyes and touched you, for at least an hour, I don't have to touch you intimately, but I don't really have an opinion. That's just kind of my rule for life. But I hear good things on the street. Now, in the documentary, it went on how she created all this sonar. I think it was sonar technology or radar
She came up with
technology.
a way that you could broadcast communications without them being blockable, because she put them on all these different frequencies at the same time and like this spread. And if they were blocking one, there was one that could still get through. And it's
Hmm.
interesting because it was at a time when like women weren't supposed to be inventing, by societal
Hmm.
standards. And so she came
Hmm.
up with this thing, and she didn't even really get much recognition for it when she was alive. And now it's like this amazing, like, split spectrum broadcast thing that, cell phone companies are fascinated by. And she gets tons of credit. But, at the time, she was just this actress who was presumed to be, superficial or whatever, because it was, what was it, like the 30s, 40s. So,
And there is a patent for what she created, I believe. I think they actually patented it when she
yeah, I think
died.
it was
That's what I
patented.
heard. I
I
don't
don't know
know.
who patented it. I believe you're right. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think if he profited from her invention. I'm not sure it was her.
this is big. All right, just wanted your thoughts on that because sometimes she pops in my head and I think about this, but I'm not a patent expert. I got other things to think of. So I'm going to go right to the source. And next time I talk to someone who works in patents, I'm going to ask them the same question. All right. Now, here's a silly question. AI. There's a movie. I forgot. I only got through halfway. Frankly, I was a little bored. Sorry, I don't like to say bad things, but I was a little bored, so that's why I didn't come back to it. There's a movie where Megan Fox plays like an AI robot. I don't know if you've seen this. I believe it's on Netflix, and
What's it
she like
called?
manages. I forgot because I don't really care. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm honest.
That does not sound like a memorable work of fiction.
well, she's very beautiful, so it obviously was
Hmm?
memorable enough that it's in my head right now, but watching it, I don't know, I was just a little bored, but that doesn't matter. So she plays like an AI robot, and she takes over, a wife dies, and she basically becomes the new wife, and she can cook, and she can clean, and she can save lives, and she can do anything. So my question to you, silly question, moving away from patents and the FDA and the government for a little while. If you had to pick top two robot cyborgs to assist you today for the rest of the day, you got three choices. Who are your top two choices? One, Megan Fox. Two, Hillary Clinton. Three, Kamala Harris. Pick your top two.
Wow. I think I would pick choice A, Megan Fox, and then I think I would pick Hillary because she's very shrewd. So
Right.
it could be sort of, what problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And, this is why, like, I don't know, this is something that people struggle with, right? If you have some list of problems to solve in the morning, and some of them involve you being like a grumpy bastard, and some of them involve you being like nice, you kind of have to
Mhm.
like wait until you're in the right mood. So if I have to
Yeah.
call and complain about some like billing mistake and ask for the supervisor, you know, very Karen like, then that's something it's like I'm gonna wait until I'm in a bad mood from sitting in traffic for a while, and I'm gonna call for my car, and then I'm gonna be in like just the right mood to just like
Really?
hit somebody. And I like the idea that you cannot even like sully yourself by getting yourself into this like negative mood. You can be like, I'm gonna pick this really shrewd person, put her on this, and then this other person is gonna, it's like good cop, bad cop, except
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can be all those things. That's amazing.
I don't really follow astrology, but because all these people believe in it, whatever. So when people believe in certain things that sound ridiculous, I'm 40 now. So at 14, 20, people say, oh, you're this, if this sign and this sign, if this with this sign, this happens. So the word on the street, this is the textbook. This is not my opinion. This is like what all these astrologers say. If
Yeah.
an Aries is with a Virgo, me, then the Aries will basically do the dirty work. They're the fighter, blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
every Aries I've been friends with, I don't party, I don't go out anymore, I don't drink alcohol. I had one beer for my film premiere the other night. But when I used to go out in my early 20s, I had an Aries friend and she fit the stereotype. And she, like what you're saying, if we had to go to clubs, she would just talk to the bouncer and bitch him around and we would get in. We would just cut the whole line. Or if the taxi cab was taking us, she's like, why are you doing this? Go here. Why are you taking this route? And she would haggle for the fees. And I would just sit back. I'm not an arguer. I don't like to be
Yeah.
contrary. I like to get along. She would make sure everything went well. She worked at Goldman Sachs. I had the key to her apartment when I was 21 years old or 20. So yeah, so I would want definitely Hillary Clinton on my team because I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to some things. I don't want to take care of some things. I don't want to have to be shrewd, I want to just chill. All
I,
right.
you know,
So
I've been bombarded all weekend with astrology conversations because
what?
I just had a baby like 2 days ago.
Oh, congratulations. Okay.
Thank you.
Or
And,
I'm
and
sorry.
so we're in the hospital, and um, her mom's friends are coming by, and they're like, "Oh, if she had been born a day earlier, she would be this, but she was born this day."
Oh,
And I'm
right.
just like sitting there, like, do you really think that like waiting a day has like totally changed her like genetic composition? And because she was born 12 hours later, like now suddenly it's this like drastically different thing.
Correct. I will say side note, because again, the only way to understand or have an opinion about something is to observe it for several years and have other people observe it. So I've been
Mhm.
observing this astrology, and in my observation, and I said this to Bob Heckman, who made the Victim No More movie, also the office manager at the dental office in my family, Janice, happy birthday. People
Happy
born
birthday.
around this time, Jan 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, I've written it online, proof. They're my favorite people. They're my favorite people to work with. These Capricorns, they are my favorites. They're just the best in my entire life. And second best are people in May. So I would say, great job. Maybe when it grows up, they could be friends with me or it can work on projects with me because
Yeah,
it's my favorite
she's
type.
all about that, I'm sure. Also, your nail polish is amazing, so you should give her tips for
Oh,
that too.
oh, thank you. No, I played a character. It's a vampire. I play all these characters. I have to be the same person for 4 or 5 months. And I finally have a little break. So I want to do something crazy. I'm so sick of having this black nail polish. It's like depressing. All right, back to you.
What's
We're
that
almost at
color
the end
called
of
though?
your. It's what?
What's that color called?
I don't know. I never know. I don't know. I don't know the colors of things.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
wish I was
fashion.
an actor because I get super bored with being the same person for 4 or 5 months
Really?
straight.
Well,
Yes.
you could do it. You could do it. You could act. Who cares? You have a phone. Hollywood's dead. Hollywood's been burning. Now it's physically burning. You
You
can
don't
you
even
can
need to
do
be an
it
actor.
now.
You can just walk into the 7-Eleven. These people don't know you. You could be whatever persona you like to be.
Actually,
That's
I
the
will
beauty of
tell you,
anonymity in a large society.
if you did want to get into acting, not that I'm an acting teacher, what do I know? That's one of the best ways to become a character. And I've done this because I like to do character acting. So let's
Oh,
say I
wow.
have
Yeah.
Susie Lucy or I have Grandma Lucia. I will actually act like that character. I'll call my mom on the way to a trip to I judged a singing contest. On the way, I called my dad, and for 20 minutes, I'm talking to him as Dr. Feldley, because I got to get in character, or I go to places and I'll
Ah,
start talking to the people in the public. It's the best way to become and channel that character wherever it's coming from. So back to you. I want to talk a little bit more about you before we close out. Could you tell our listeners, viewers, where to find you on websites, Facebook? Where do we find you?
sure. So I am on my website is johnmaly.com, which is johnmaly.com. And that has links to all the different social media presences. My book itself is called Juris Ex Machina, once again. And it is a book about the future, which originally was envisioned as like the far future, but now I think it's the nearer future. Maybe it's not so much fiction anymore. It's not speculative. And it's about a future in the sense that law and technology become far too much intertwined. And so we replace human judges and jurors with artificial intelligence. And we have a small time hacker who gets, and also a kleptomaniac who gets wrongfully convicted of mass murder. And he gets sent to this strange prison where the prisoners are also the guards. And he has to escape from there and become the first person to escape to reunite with his attorney. And
Uh,
they need to figure out how this happened and who the real mass murderer is. So that's kind of the premise of the book. And if that sounds interesting,
dun dun
it's
dun.
yeah, it's kind of similar to like it's sort of this spiritually influenced by Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. So if you like that book, give this book a try and sort of cross with John Grisham. So
Maybe I'll have to learn how to read. One day when I can read, maybe I can read your book. If someone can teach me how to read, maybe I would have read his book by now. There's my excuse. No, and final thought, anything that's on your mind or anything you'd like to share with society or listeners for on it came to from the radio. My God, I can't speak today. What's on your
no, like
mind?
I think AI is like when I started writing the book, AI was like this niche thing that not too many people were very interested in, and nobody was really using outside of like number and handwriting recognition and stuff. And now I think it's a fascinating thing because it's something that's the future of it changes every week, and it's
Hmm.
like hugely asymmetric and non-contiguous in the sense that like how it affects one industry and one task that you have to do in everyday life is like vastly different to how it affects other industries. And so it's
Hmm.
this like really like rocky landscape of all kinds of crazy pitfalls and things and it's
Yeah.
constantly changing. So I think it's like from the standpoint of somebody who testifies as an expert witness in cases involving AI, like
Hmm.
keeping up with it is like almost a full-time job, which was not the
Hmm.
case with just doing like microprocessor cases or software cases. So
Hmm.
it's it's fascinating in that sense is just how quickly it's changing and how rapidly. So the reason I read the book is just it explores one facet of it that I think is really representative of kind of the relationship between humans and AI in the future.
Is it easier, in your opinion, to keep up with the Kardashians or keep up with AI?
I think the Kardashians, like I think that what's fascinating is that like we're creating these AIs that are faster and faster and faster. And so they evolve so fast we can't even keep track of it. Like
Hmm.
we'll invent a new AI generation, like a chatbot, and it'll be like 3 or 6 months before we realize it has some capability, like how to tell people how to make bombs or how to do like chemical engineering or medical research. And
Hmm.
even the creators of this thing don't even know it has this capability. So that is what is sort of endlessly fascinating about it. And I don't know, I feel like the Kardashians, you kind of like get to know them, make some predictions, and you can kind of like you can make some reasonable guesses, whereas like AI is just all these like black swan crazy events out of the blue that you couldn't have
Yeah.
seen. So it's I don't know. It's like you got to stay afloat atop the tide of all this crazy change. So you got to kind of like educate yourself now while it's something that's still trackable and kind of keep up on it.
I love that you took that question seriously. I love your answer. And yes, stay afloat. That's my final thought for this interview. Do what you can to stay afloat. And you know some ways to stay afloat? I'm gonna throw them out there right now. Floss your teeth twice a day. I thought I could get away with once a day. You can't. I got cavities. So floss twice a day, eat healthy, eat well, surround yourself with people who lift you up and fuel you, not drain you. And that's going to help you too. As John Maly says, stay afloat in this ever-changing world that's changing by the second, by the day. All right, I gotta go. I gotta
Great
get adult
advice.
braces. I'm getting some orthodontist appointment. I gotta go. Thanks so much. Very interesting. I'm gonna follow up with you. And now back to the studio for more. It came from the radio.